Today we're going to try our hand at 2D felting with embroidery over the top. Now I've watched some videos and I've got a book and some directions, and I don't know, I feel like something is missing. Like I'm either missing some steps or some magic has really got to happen, because essentially you lay your nice wool out, stab it down, and then a picture appears. I feel like there's definitely something missing, but we're going to give it a go. I'm going to do a very simple design of sky, sort of greeny grassland, and then embroider on top of it. This is my first one. I thought keep it really simple, so I'm not going to transfer a pattern onto the felt. I'm just going to try and create a background for some embroidery to go on. Now I'm having difficulties deciding what background that should be. So I've got a nice green, but the clouds and sky might not cover all the green. I've also got a blue, but for the sky, but obviously the green might not cover it all. So I'm thinking neutral, sort of, it's off-white. I do have a white, which I think would be okay for the sky, but again, if you see bits of the white sticking out, that's not going to look great on the grass. So I've got a very sort of pale ivory colour. It's already got my my holes in, because I am going to put this in my embroidery book. I've got some blues, which were just from Hobbycraft, and I got my starter kit, which came with these colours. You need something underneath your work you're making. This is a hard sponge covered in a little bit of cheap felt. You can just use sponge, I've seen from videos, you can just do that. You're going to lay your fabric on top. Now, it's given this little device in the starter pack with the needle facing in, so I've just turned it out. I've been given some extra needles as well. They all look quite a similar size, so I'm just going to start with the one that they supplied in the handle, and you apparently just start pulling tiny bits out of your main roll. And start stabbing it. Okay, that's not doing anything. I'm gonna try and fold it up a little bit. Yeah, I wondered what's like. What do you do? And mind your fingers, because it is quite sharp. Okay, now it's starting to stick. So I feel like, oh, and you can see some holes there, so we do have to be a little bit careful. Okay, I think I've made that stick. It is quite 3D, so it is going to be quite a thick piece. And I think, yeah, this is going to take quite a long time. I did want sort of quite thin layers, but I think to get it to stick, we are going to have to sort of fold it over on itself and make quite thick layers. I could see actually on an embroidery, if you had a blue sky embroidery, you could add some white fluffy clouds, just doing a little bit of wool felting. That might be really nice. I think I might struggle here to cover all the cream with the little sort of starter pack that I've got. Should have started with a really small piece. I'm also not sure how easy this is going to be to embroider over. It's very fluffy. I think I'm probably not going to embroider over the sky, so it's not a problem. But the grass down here will have to be really stabbed down and quite flat so I can embroider over it. I am going to bring in some other colours so it's not too dense. Warm blue. I think we should probably have evening sky. Oh, this is really fluffy. Might be quite a good stress reliever, this. I've never got sort of up close to someone else's felted work, so I can't really tell what it's meant to look like. I know I've seen in the videos that they do keep taking it off the back pad to make sure you're not getting it really sort of stuck and attached. So I'm picking up tips already. Yeah, you can see some holes where I've gone over it again to try and flatten it a little bit. You can see holes appearing, which is not really what you want. So it's just going to have to be quite poofy, I think. But I quite like the way that that has just sort of mixed in. And I think the secret ingredient, the magic that has to happen, is just time. I think it's just going to be a really time-consuming thing, which is okay. I'm here to try something new. You can see, getting a little bit carried away and come all the way down. You can see some little holes where I've probably sort of overworked it a little bit, and I realised sort of swapping one colour to the other, I've got some sort of not got a very good blend at the top here, and I think, to be honest, you could rip it out, but I'm gonna keep it, work with it. And what I think you should probably do, or next time, is do the one colour that you want as sort of a base all the way down, and then add in some extra highlights and things. I found a grey, so I'm going to introduce some more grey. Might introduce a little bit more dark blue at the top, so we've got some gradient. And this didn't actually take too long, it took about 20 minutes. Which, I mean, when you think of embroidery, if you wanted to cover that space in embroidery, it would take you so much longer. So this is a nice technique if you just want to do a little bit of embroidery, but still have a really sort of interesting background. It's a bit like that game, you know, where you sort of go like this. You're playing with the Russian roulette here a little bit. I have stabbed my finger once, but it wasn't too bad. And I think perhaps you can get a thimble, or even you could wear a glove maybe on this hand just to protect it a little bit. I will put a link to the starter kit in the description as well, because I think it was good value. It was half price at the time, and even full price it gives you enough to start a project or two. Just not entirely sure how much to work it. I quite like the way the colours are blending in, but it's really quite thick on top of the fabric, so I'm not sure if I'm meant to keep going until it's almost flat or not. This is Hobby Crafts and it's quite smooth, and then this is the Crafty Kit Company, which is a bit rougher. I don't know which is best, if there is a difference. They are both wool, and I don't think it's going to give a different finish, but they are, you can just tell when you're working with them that this one is the smoother one. So I'm going to call that it with the sky. I definitely think there's room for improvement here. But now I know how the felt sort of works. And I think the smaller the pieces, the smaller you can rip it up into, the better. And if you've got lots of different colours, see the grey really kind of stands out, and you really want that sort of blended in a bit more, I think. For a more natural effect, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I should have probably split those bits up a bit further and just had little wisps of colour here and there. But it's gone on okay. So now we're going to go with a bit of green at the bottom. I think I'm going to go for the light green first. And I guess there's different ways of doing it. You could just have a strip and then a dark strip right at the bottom. Or you could have like a hill and a dark hill in the background. But I think as this is my first go, we are going to keep it real simple. I'm quite pleased with how the cream in the background has been covered really easily, so hopefully that will be the same with this green. And then with the embroidery, we've got a couple of different choices really. You could do it all in black, as though it's all in shadow. Ah! Oh, that was a stab. Yikes. Not bleeding though, so we're okay. They could include in the beginner kit like some thimbles. I don't tend to use them when I'm sewing, but I could see this could be a bit hazardous. Especially if you're tired. Do not do it when you're tired. The green is actually giving sort of a nice glow to the background, so you could, I don't think it's going to matter too much if there is a slight bit showing through. I think it was a good choice to use sort of a neutral creamy colour rather than a white. Something a little bit different with the green. I kind of accidentally made some grass at the front here, and I thought, okay, let's try and do that. So I put some pieces on vertically, so most of the time I've been working horizontally and sort of trying to mix it up, but I purposely did some horizontally. I think it looks okay. I think with the flowers over the top it'll just blend in, so that's what I did with the dark green. And that basically is our 2D felting done. So actually it's probably taken about an hour. And now we're going to do just some nice slow stitching, just some flowers, just free form. So some bigger ones at the front. Also want to soften the line here. And I think, I don't know, I think we need something in the sky. It's a nice mix of colours, but it needs some focus. So maybe just some outlines of some black birds, sort of in a tick sort of shape. I found a few greens, well, two. They're kind of faded, washed out greens, and also a sort of almost greeny brown as well. I want to bring a bit of that in. And I found just a tiny bit of this really dark green, so I'm going to add a little bit of detail in that as well, but not much because I've not got much of it. I've got black just for maybe a black bird in the distance, so no detail, just some simple stitching. And I've got a few colours for little flowers, not kind of anything in particular. I probably will do some daisy type things. Actually, I just wondered, since it's bluebell season, so maybe we'll do some of those as well. Couldn't really find any browns. I never seem to have browns, and yet I always need browns. It's just not really a colour you kind of go, oh, I need to buy lots of different shades of brown. But actually so many things in sort of nature call for some brown. Put that on my shopping list, browns. I think we can get away without it. We've got this nice dark green and this sort of greeny brown. So realising it's bluebell season, I thought I'd try and find some bluebelly colours, and the bluebells near us are actually quite purple. Not that kind of purple. but this sort of bluey purple. So I'm going to add a few of those as well. So I'm going to go with quite a big headed needle because I feel it might be a little bit difficult to sew through. I'm starting with 2 strands, which is just my go-to really, and we're going to see how that goes. It might be we need more because this is so sort of dense and 3D. We might need more to sort of show the stitching up, because I do want to show the stitching off as well. I'm just going to do some straight lines up with this dark green, sort of crossing over the background, and we'll see what that looks like. It's not actually too difficult to stitch through. The fluffiness might cause some problems with the positioning of your stitches, but actually it's quite easy. Definitely pulling out some of the felt as I sew, and I don't know if that is natural or whether that means I haven't sort of attached it well enough. Yeah, I think this needed to be 3 strands. Yeah, might do another one underneath and then one in the corner. I'm going to try some daisies with Lazy Daisy stitch near the front, so they are going to be quite big. And then I thought I might do some bluebells at the back. It's going to have to be on green though, because this blue might just blend into the sky, but maybe just in the background. So I've done my little daisies just across the front. Did 3 little birds. I think the scale on this is going to be a little bit out of whack, but it's going to be a pretty picture, not to worry too much about the size of things. So I'm going to start doing some bluebells, just sort of scattered. I actually think I want to do quite a few going across. I'm not sure yet. I will give them some tiny stalks as well, but I wanted to just have a look at what the head of the bluebell is going to be like. I think just straight stitch. I'm using 3 strands now, so a little bit thicker than the Lazy Daisy, and we want sort of like a triangle effect, I think. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. That's quite a dark one. I'm going to mix up all my colours. So the purpley blues. I think this might be a little bit too purple, but we'll see. And we'll have them facing different directions. But since it is bluebell season here in London, and I do live quite close to a wooded area which has a lovely sort of blanket of bluebells, thought why not add some bluebells to this. And you do have two sometimes on the same kind of stalk, stem. Here is the finished piece. I did manage to do it in a day, which is quite a short amount of time for an embroidery. I'm really pleased with how all the bluebells turned out. It does look almost like two different things, which is a bit of a shame because this is quite flattened with all the stitching on top. And this is still quite poofy, and I did try and give it some more stabbing, but it didn't want to go down any further. And I wonder if that's because I was using slightly too much wool, either too many layers or too thicker layers. So it's quite dense. And I was trying to think of other stitching I could put on top, like more birds and things, but I couldn't really think of anything that would work. So this is the back, that's my stitching obviously, and you can see some of the little bits of fibres have come through. That's alright. And that's going to go in my felt book. I like the way it sort of just goes out into the edges, just sort of fades. I like what we did here with the two different greens. Used quite a few different colours of the bluey purple colours. And yeah, I am looking forward to trying this again with some knowledge of how it kind of works, how it comes together now, because this is the first piece. It's not going to be the best piece, but you've just got to try it sometimes and see what happens. So I have learned a lot, and there's definitely a couple of pieces. I'd like to do a sunset with black shadow flowers and maybe a tree and things at the front, and maybe even like a space theme, so sort of really dark blues and starry nights and swirls of a galaxy, that kind of thing. So I can definitely see myself using this a little bit more. That's 2D felting with embroidery.